Hello there, Servum17 once again. This is my E3 coverage of E3 2015, and we're doing the Microsoft conference today. So Microsoft, one of the big three as they're called, which always makes me think of the big five from Yu-Gi-Oh, which is completely different, but there you go. They pretty much started the run of big things at E3, and the conference was pretty damn interesting. I watched it with, there was about, I think, maybe 6 to 10 people in the chat, chatting it up with me as we watched it, and everybody had incredibly mixed feelings, which I always think is a really good thing for a press conference, because if everybody was like, yeah, it was great, then there was probably something weird going on, but if everyone was like, oh, it was shit, then it's probably just modern gaming, because everybody seems to think that, you know, at the end is nigh, gaming's doomed, and all games are, you know, worse than they used to be because of the old nostalgia goggles. But they started with Halo 5 Guardians, which is obviously a massive product for Microsoft. It is their flagship. It is the very game that sold their original console, a console I never owned, never will, and never cared for, and a series that similarly I can't get excited about, because as much as I appreciate some aspects of the gameplay and I respect Halo, it's never been a game that I've been overly fond of. However, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's good, and doesn't mean it's popular, because it is popular and a lot of people seemed really exciting. All I really know about this game is from adverts that were in Blackpool all the time, because when we went at the convention, we were generally walking around Blackpool, and then we'd go back to the hotel, me and my girlfriend, and we'd watch crappy TV until we fell asleep, and almost 3 times an hour, every hour, the Halo 5 Guardians advert played. Hell, I was in a pub with Hobo Jesus and my girlfriend. We were all having some beers and laughing at this geriatric DJ, and it was coming on every hour there. Like, everywhere we went, this damn trailer was, and all it showed was the exact same thing. Master Chief walking up to some dude crouched, like, ooh, trader this, trader that, never thought you'd do this. And then there was the exact same advert, only it was reversed. Master Chief's laid up all shitty, and this other guy's walking towards him like, oh, Chief, you were so good, but now you've gone bad, blah, 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 Halo 5 Guardians. Like, I have no idea what this is. If you read the books, good for you, but I don't, and I don't want to. So, to me, it's going to be Halo, and that is neither there or here. Like, it looked pretty, it looked very Halo-y, but at this point, nothing really to get excited about. Even when they're like, we've got this big battle mode where everybody gets together and things are big. Did we mention it was big? Well, it's big. Like, yeah. And here is the trend that I'm really concerned about at this moment in time with gaming as an industry and at E3, and just this moral perception of it. I have no idea when everybody's dick fear got so grand that we started judging the merit of games and the quality therein based on their size, because I couldn't give a single fuck how big your game is. Your game could be one room, and if it's good and the mechanics are nice, then it's going to be a good game. It has nothing to do with everything being as big as GTA 5. Like, GTA 5 is a great game, but the sum of its parts are not as good as the sum of the parts of a game that is linear and smaller. Fact. Don't care who you are. Cannot be argued. Those games collectively do everything averagely. They just put it all in a really cohesive package, and it's astounding what they do technically. But those individual components are not that impressive, guys. Like, take a game that does one thing. Look at FIFA. FIFA does one thing. They kick balls and stuff, and, you know, everyone gets excited. But it does it fantastically, and it's the leader of its field. Get it? Because that's what it does. Now imagine if in FIFA you could drive around the city, or you could go and, I don't know, buy fucking popcorn and play whack-a-mole. Don't you think the football would probably not be quite up to the scratch that it is? It wouldn't be quite as nuanced and finessed and amazing, because they're too busy, you know, modelling the girl's buttocks as she jumps on your knee and gets excited because you just got her a game in one of those grabbing machines in an arcade. Like, it falls apart when things get bigger, and everything's getting bigger. And we played Witcher 3, guys. That game is fucking broken. It is beautiful, I love it, but it is broken. It's broken on PC because it's too big, it's too grand, it's too ambitious. Now everything else is like, we're going big, we're so afraid that we've got tiny penises, let's go big. Like, this, all they're saying to me is I do not have confidence in my manhood, and if we blow you away with size and prettiness, you're not going to mind that we didn't actually polish our game. Like, and that is a terrifying notion to me. Which, moving on to the next one, ReCore. This looked really interesting. Really, really interesting. I put Maze Runner Jak and Daxter as my note for this game. So I think this was being done by... Is it Inafune that's doing this? Who, if you don't know... I could be wrong here. He's doing one of the games at E3, so just take what I'm about to say and put it next to it. Inafune is the guy who is known for Mega Man, but he also did Onimusha and other titles within Capcom. Pretty big name, pretty experienced guy, and this was pretty much... There was this girl, and she had this dog thing that looked like something I shot in Halo 4, and then it died, and its core was still intact, so she took the core out and she put it in something else, this big robot golem thing. So it's this notion of building these like synthetic relationships with these creations that are powered by this core, and using that to keep yourself alive. And it could be really interesting. It reminded me of like the next generation's cameo elements of power, because if you remember when they first showed that game off for the GameCube, yeah, get that, it was about her using these other creatures' abilities to survive. So a very similar kind of theme, I felt. It had that written all over it, but you can't judge anything based off of 40 seconds of hype. You really can't, so I'm not even going to bother. And then Microsoft dropped a bombshell. I'm not usually swept into the hysteria of, you know, and you're going to be able to play your friend's games with your friend in your house. Fuck you, Microsoft. Mic drop. I'm not really into that, although I do appreciate that Sony destroyed last year with it, and then they snugly snuck in like, but you're gonna have to pay for PS Plus, so fuck you, which was amazing because everyone's like, whoa, yeah, I can play my games. Did you just say something? Like, I don't know, I'm so excited. Like, and nobody heard that part. But this year Microsoft did it, only without the negligible bit afterwards. Backwards compatibility. This is massive. This is incredibly huge. And I don't understand it at all. It makes no sense to me as a business choice. Because let's analyse this, shall we? Microsoft made a fortune on Xbox 360 selling games to you. Selling games you already owned to you. They even made it so that most of their old Xbox games wouldn't work on that hardware. So that you had to buy the fucking on-demand and PlayStation, Xbox Classics or whatever. So they were essentially giving you free money. And Sony gave you backwards compatibility. They gave you a PlayStation 3 that could play all the games, the older generation stuff, and it was amazing. But then, see, they realised, like, hang on a second, Microsoft's making all this money off of robbing people because they're evil human beings. We should do that. So they stopped that particular, I think, was it like the 80 gig PS3 that enabled you to do that? And then all the ones afterwards didn't do that, so that Sony could catch up and sell bullshit to you, which we all pay for because we love bullshit. So then they were finally equal in their nefariousness, and you're like, ah, fuck the consumer, buy all the things. And now Microsoft go back on that? After they pioneered the whole, we're greedy, we like money, please give me money? That is weird. That is really weird. And the only thing I can think of is Sony's winning. Because they are. They're outselling the console, they've got a better console, like, they're doing all the right things, and I don't hate that machine when I turn it on. So all I can think is Microsoft needs a big move to try and, you know, cover that distance, that expanse that's widening, and this is their option. And it's a great option, but it comes with a footnote. They're going to be patching in games that are going to be able to be using backwards compatibility, and at the moment there's only 22, and half of them are arcade games. Like, I want to play Street Fighter 4 without fucking about with cables, which is completely not true because I don't have a stick that'll work on the Xbox One. But you know what I mean? Like, the games I'm going back to my 360 for, I would love to be able to play on the Xbox One. It's a great thing. It would free up space on my cabinet so that I could retire the Xbox 360 and I could move the PlayStation 4 off the baby shelf. Like, that would be amazing. And the potential in this is awesome. But they can also get real lazy, guys, and that's what I think we need to be aware of. Just because they say they're going to continue to patch in backwards compatibility support doesn't mean they're going to come through with it. Because look at the Kinect. Look at all the support the Kinect got. Name a fucking Kinect game. Name anybody talking about Kinect. It's dead and buried and everybody ignores it. So this could be just that in a year's time, which I hope it isn't because it looks great. Then there was a new controller. I am not happy with Microsoft's controller. You might be like, but Chris, you say you don't play PS4, you know, third-party games because you love the controller. I love the controller in theory. Like, I think the Xbox 360 controller is one of the best controllers ever made. I think the way it fits my hands and the way it enables me to play is perfect. I don't know why they changed it, but they did. Certain things they changed, certain things, you know, for the better, certain things for the worse. I still think we're getting triggers wrong. I think we will forever get triggers wrong until we realise that the space between pressing the fucking trigger and it actually acknowledging needs to be shorter. The N64 had the best trigger in video gaming because the moment you clicked that button, it pressed. There was none of this deep wells of pressing it down so you can feel the vibration and the tertiary impulses through your fucking hands and all this nonsense. We're like, you're going to be able to feel yourself changing gears and reloading. Like, no. I want to press a trigger that gives me a response that doesn't take 30 fucking milliseconds to happen. So in the time that it's took for your trigger to register and the delay from the pad to the machine because there's no actual wire for it, and then the TV with all the bullshit happening on the screen making the picture look nice that's adding extra delay, I've already died. Like, come on, this is not how this is meant to be. And now they're mentioning a new controller. Will this new controller have bumpers that you can press further up like you used to be able to, but now you can't because it's practically part of the framework? I don't know. Will they have those bits on the pad that are actually quite sharp because for some reason they want to give you a knife in your hands? I don't understand it. Are they going to give us a cable that actually fits into the controller correctly and doesn't cost additional money? Like, are they going to do anything that's consumer friendly that makes you want to buy their stuff and play their console? Because I don't know if you know this, folks, but the PlayStation 4 comes with a cable that plugs directly into the controller. It fits snugly, and I don't have to worry about batteries. And it's longer than the PlayStation 3 cable as well, which was all of 7 centimeters, which is a good thing. Sony are doing good things. Microsoft aren't, and they never will, because they're hungry. They're hungry all the time for money. They like bathing in money and injecting money because they're fucking money addicts. So instead, you pay all this bullshit to get things you should already have. And now they're announcing another controller. Another controller that is $150. That is half the price of the console in America. Half the price of the fucking console. And you know what you're going to get? You're going to get a downgrade version of a scuff. That's what you're getting. Swappable components, which denounces that they're going to wear down and break just like they always do. Rear paddles that you can remap that enable you to do things that people call cheating in Call of Duty. Like, extra grip. I don't know if any of you throw your controller as much as I do, which is never. The only time I throw my controller, if I ever would be out of anger. It would not be out of the lack of grip. Because I'm a sweaty bastard too, so it's nothing to do with lack of grip. So adding extra grip when there's no cable to lower the input delay into the goddamn console and enable me to play it without every so often it going, your cable is unhooked because it's actually a Kindle charger and you shouldn't be using it. Like, baffles my mind. I have no idea why anyone would be excited for that, except for maybe the D-pad looks weird as shit and it could be cool and new tech. But I'm not buying it and I don't care. Fallout 4 again. PC mods will work on Xbox One and PC. This is great news. The modding community gives games lives they should never really have, because extremely talented, dedicated people go up and beyond the call of anything you could ever imagine. And if you like a game and it's got a good modding community, you can be playing that for the next 20 years. I see nothing wrong with this as a development outside of how exactly will it work. That's the stuff I don't understand. The infrastructure side of this is mind-boggling, but that's their job, not mine. So hopefully they'll figure that shit out. And then we have EA Vault. So this is EA asking for money again, and they're going to give you access to their vault, which has a bunch of games you don't want to play in it. But they're adding games you might want to play. One of them was Titanfall and the other one was Dragon Age Inquisition, which are two great games. But they're two great games I can get on the subscription fee I already have to a rental service that sells me the full game, the actual physical disc. So I don't understand how this is going to apply to me personally, but I'm sure somebody else might have some kind of interest in this. My note here was, give them money for nothing, because that's truly how I felt at the time. Then we have Plants vs. Zombies 2. I put Danger Zone, enough said. So if you didn't see this, they played Danger Zone, the song from Top Gun. It's a great tune. I wanted, is it James Cordry? I forget his name. The guy who does that scene with Danger Zone when he's in the plane. I wanted him to come out. The guy from Hot Tub Time Machine, if you don't know. He's kind of balding. Funny guy. Saturday Night Live, I think. That guy. But he didn't. Instead, this really dry dude came out and like, this is our new Plants vs. Zombie game. You know, that one that everybody liked but nobody liked? I don't even know. It looks like Plants vs Zombies. It looks like that game that they released last time. Only now it's more, bigger, better. I don't even know. I will never play that game. It looks fun. It looks silly. I have zero interest. I am so cosmetically obsessed with how a game looks that if it looks like something I don't want to play, I probably won't play it on that grounds, which is ridiculous and stupid, but it's true. Then we've got Forza 6. So they're going to run out of numbers with this series, but it has to be said, folks. I played the Forza Horizon 2 Fast and Furious free game that they gave us last month, and I hate racing games. Racing games are like when I was in primary school and we had to go to church. They're just the fucking dullest, most painstaking endeavour ever, where you sit there wishing it would end, not quite sure what's happening, and not entirely sure why anybody would do it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and I had a lot of fun for one reason. There's a mechanic in this game, which there's a guide line, which shows you essentially the optimum line through the race, through the game. And it's a shade of green arrows that weaves through these courses, and when you get to a turn, the colour shifts depending on the speed you're going to tell you whether or not you have to brake and how much you have to brake. So it gives somebody like me, who I don't know how to play driving games at a good way on a simulation game. I like Mario Kart and Beetle Adventure Racing. I like games where you fire shit, Vigilante 8, Twisted Metal, that kind of stuff. I don't like this real stuff. If I wanted to drive a real car, I'd go and write off my mum's. But it made me interested in how I was meant to play this game, and following these lines and braking and getting it, say, like perfect driving or clean driving awards popping up as it was happening. It felt pretty good, like I could get into that, and an hour passed and I got bored and never wanted to play it again. But in that 1 hour, it showed me something that I thought had real potential and was really good. However, it doesn't work when you're close to other cars because the cars block the road, so you can't see the fucking line, which is stupid. But Forza 6, you either like the game or you don't. You're either a racing car dude and you're excited, or you're not. I don't think there's any middle ground here. The note I put was something about car stuff, and that pretty much sums up everything I care about that game. Then we had Dark Souls 3. I can't get excited for Dark Souls 3, guys. I can't do it. I honestly couldn't tell you why. Dark Souls 2, I got really excited. I got too excited, and I think it scarred me. Because I don't know. If you watch my blind playthrough of Dark Souls 2, I'm liking it, but every so often there's moments when it just doesn't make sense. And the things that didn't make sense grew and grew and grew and grew, and it got to the point where I objectively think Dark Souls 2 is a fantastic game and better than 90% of the games on the market, but I kind of hate it. And I'm not hating it because it's cool to hate. I'm hating it because I honestly dislike how it feels to play that game at times. And then, of course, Bloodborne came out and shattered everything that game could have ever been. However, this is Miyazaki coming back to Dark Souls, and all the information we have from all the people who watched the demo behind closed doors, which hasn't leaked on YouTube yet, goddammit, are saying it's so much like Dark Souls 1. It looks so much like it. It feels so much like it. It's just like Dark Souls 1. And Dark Souls 1 is one of the best games ever made. Dark Souls 1 will always have my heart, and the fact they're saying this is teasing me. It's poking at my heart, at my exposed, life vessel, and I just don't know how to feel about it. So I can't really talk about it until I see it, because right now I feel nothing. And it saddens me to say that I feel nothing about a series that has been such a passionate and an invested part of the last few years. But I can't help feeling like it's too soon. And I don't want this to become Assassin's Creed. I don't want this to become, like God of War, like all these games that I used to love that have just been homogenized so much they're just an emaciated cow with saggy tits. I can't do it. So the footnote that I put here was early 2016, which is even more baffling. I can't do it. I don't know. So the next thing was The Division. The Division, guys. The Division. When Ubisoft first showed this 9 years ago, I was excited. I was really excited. I thought it looked great. I thought everything about it was cool. Like, the ideas behind this, the look, the aesthetic, give me this game. And then the next year, and then the next year, and then the next year, and then finally now, where this is literally Watch Dogs 2. That's what it is. And I don't mean that as a gameplay perspective, I mean that as in an expectation perspective. Ubisoft are holding this game off and waving it in front of our faces for so long, nobody cares anymore. By the time this game comes out, if it even comes out, and at this point I don't think it even should, no one's going to care. It's been too long. Like, it was so exciting 2 years ago, and now it's not. Like, everything's changed, guys. Everything changed. And you're still making this game, and you're still showing the same bullshit from this game. And the thing they showed was hilarious. They showed 2 teams of players teaming up to do like a mission or an area in the game. And then they were looting it, and then on the team speak, which is always highly realistic. I mean, you know it's realistic because it features a girl, and they're all like, oh, let's flank this cover. Oh my god, you have to cover me. Like, nobody's shouting, no one's talking over each other, no one's swearing, nobody's talking about a lump on their arsehole, nobody's saying things that just pollute your ears when you play online. And then he's like, I can't stop thinking about what loot they might have. And then all of a sudden they go rogue, only it's not what they thought, and one dude ends up killing everybody and stealing all the gear. And it's like, okay, you've got some kind of betrayal mechanic. You've essentially done what Kane and Lynch did 40 years ago. Congratulations. And all I'm thinking, which is what I said in the stream chat, was, if you're in my party and you do that, I will never play a video game with you again in your life. I will ban you from my YouTube channel. I will delete you off my friends list. And if you're local, I'll probably punch you. That's how I feel about that kind of stuff. And I have no idea who, in a cooperative shooter that is built on teamwork and exploration and survival, would fuck over their friends. Like, come on, dudes. All this is giving people who like to be assholes online an opportunity to be assholes. Like, it's like they're the people who get destroyed in Dark Souls by invaders and see no merit in PvP and just think that invaders exist to ruin their co-op experience. So they think, oh, I'm going to do what Dark Souls does in our game, and we're going to make it so that assholes can ruin our day. Like, it is somebody profoundly misunderstanding the fun notion of being able to do that. Like, I just don't see how that's going to be interesting at all. You know, I can see a lot of really good YouTube videos of people infiltrating groups and going on quests and everybody's friends, and then they just dick them over at the end. But how long is that going to last? Because you know what happened on Kane and Lynch when somebody betrayed you in that first round of Fragile Alliance and you were playing with all your mates, is in that next round at the beginning, nobody ran forward but the guy who killed somebody at the end, and everybody killed him. And every round that motherfucker got put down at the beginning by everyone else. So much so, he quit the game. That is what works. That is how these games work. That is always what happens. It'll get to the point where people don't even join each other, they just kill on sight. And it'll be like DayZ. Only it'll function and it won't be 1 frame a second. I want to be excited for this game, guys, but I just don't see how you can be. And then Rainbow Six Siege. So this was, I don't know if this was the Ubisoft one or the Microsoft one, because I can't remember, it's kind of blurred. But if the trailer, I think it was Ubisoft, so I'll stop saying this. Anyhow, I've put could be great, but probably won't be. Rainbow Six Siege is an interesting game. It's a game that's trying to bring it back to tactical, team-based shooting. We all know this doesn't work. It worked back in Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2 because all the dumb bastards died, and all the people who played the game as it was meant to be played, moving strategically and using cover, essentially doing all the things that people complain about in Call of Duty, were successful and led the leaderboards and had really tense, interesting shootouts. But gaming's changed, and everybody plays every first-person shooter now like it's Call of Duty, and I just don't see how this is going to work, because they're showing all this super synchronized team stuff and all this really interesting uses of teamwork, and you just know you're going to have that one guy idle who's not helping anything. You're going to have the other guy teleporting around because he's on a red bar. You know, nobody's talking. It doesn't work. It's this idealized bullshit version of games that don't exist, and I wish it did. I truly do. I said on the stream, I wish I had these friends who team speak like bosses all the time and don't tell me, you know, that the girlfriend won't put out because she's got a yeast infection. Like, but that's just not life. It just ain't life. And this game, Ubisoft have not made a first-person shooter for a while outside of Far Cry, and Far Cry shooting mechanics are shit. I don't care what anyone says. They're bad. They are not good. And the whole point of a first-person shooting game that is not a massive open sandbox, because the reason why Far Cry gets away with it is they're just passable, and you spend more time doing all the crazy other shit like setting fires and doing the up-close executions and hang gliding and what have you. Like, on a game where all you have is the shooting, it's not good enough. And it has to be tight. And Rainbow Six Vegas had this really interesting thing where when you went into cover, you went into third-person view, which I really liked. And the guns had recoil, which was kind of a novelty thing back then, because everything was like laser aim. There was a lot of things to like about it, but now that doesn't cut it. Doesn't cut it at all. So I just don't really understand what this game's going to be, and I can't understand getting too excited for it until we see more, until we play it. I truly can't. But there you go, Rainbow Six. Then there was Gigantic, which I've seen this game for quite some time now. It is a free-to-play, like competitive PvP, team-based action game. I hope it's great. It looks colourful, it looks fun. I really want to play that owl dude with the sword, he looks great. But if it's anything like Warframe, which is pretty much the only free-to-play game I've ever played, I am probably going to hate it, because Warframe is this thing that's got great potential, but everything is locked behind thousands of hours of grinding, or just buy it, and I don't want to buy shit, really. It's not how I work. I'm poverty-stricken and trying to, trying to follow my dreams. I don't really have the coin to be spending it on superfluous bullshit, like, weapons in a game that I should really have weapons in already. But there you go. Gigantic, could be great, could be trash. Who knows? Then they did ID at Xbox, which was this kind of montage of indie games, and I felt that this was kind of hilarious. Because if you remember last year, Sony did this. Sony were like, we know our console's great to develop for, we know our last one wasn't, so we're going to do this for indie people, and here's 1 million games coming to our system because it's so easy to develop for it. And it was like, oh my god, this is so cool, and then Microsoft's like, we don't have any of those because our machine's not easy to make for, and we're actually kind of tyrannical in our policies. So this year they had something to fight back, even though Sony were, already too busy trying to drop Final Fantasy VII on us, which is just madness. So they showed a bunch of different indie games. The first one's called Tacoma. I said it looks like PlayStation Home in my notes, which is a joke, as to say that it's completely barren. It's somebody exploring like empty space stations in some kind of intriguing mystery, maybe suspense game. Then I put the next game was Ashen, which in my notes I put Lego Dark Souls. It's this kind of like wantonly cooperative, incredibly stylized, Pixar-esque looking Dark Souls-y game. That's, I mean, what else can you say? Then there was a game called Beyond Eyes. I put Dora the Explorer Does 1,000 Acres because it looked like Winnie the Pooh land. And then there was Cuphead, which looked amazing. This is probably one of the best games I saw at E3 because it's styled in like a 1930s art style where the frame rate's kind of weird because those movies, they were all like hand animated, so it kind of jumped a little bit. And it's a platforming, shmup, crazy looking game. It looked amazing. If you haven't seen it, guys, check it out. That is a game to watch. It looks truly great. And then they showed Tomb Raider. Rise of the Tomb Raider, which has nothing to do with the Planet of the Apes, unfortunately. And I put ice climbing and great lighting. So the demo didn't really do much for me personally. It showed Lara climbing, which, I've climbed walls in so many games at this point. It's got to feel great or be fun to do, or I just don't give a shit. She might as well give us a fucking loading screen, because that's what it is. And then she was, running around, and there was a lot of great lighting. The lighting looked superb. I hope there's a more emphasis on exploration and tomb raiding this time, because the last game was pretty much just kind of like a snuff movie against women. But still, it was a really fun game, and I'm looking forward to this in the exact same way, because it will be a great game, and I was very surprised by the Tomb Raider reboot, so I hopefully will be surprised by this, because I played the old Tomb Raider games. I didn't like them, They were, like, jumping from one part to another was the hardest thing in the world, because of the way she controlled, and then you would jump into the water, and you were dead, because there was a crocodile in it. Like, that's my memory of that game series. Like, I'll never forget that first opening where that cutscene plays and those wolves attack you, because it was such an iconic game at the time. But games played differently back then, folks, and games now play so much better, it's not even funny. They might not be as good in your hearts, but they play better now. However, the release date for this is the same day as Fallout 4. So I don't know who was smoking crack that day, but they have serious faith in this title. And the logic they used is, you know, it's a completely different game, and there's nothing wrong with having more of a great thing at the same time. Which is a good thing to say, but Tomb Raider came out, what was it, 3 years ago, 2 years ago? And then they released a definitive edition a year ago. So we've had our fill of Tomb Raider recently, guys. Fallout came out how many years back? And there ain't been one since. Like, there are people who never played New Vegas because they didn't want to, because they thought it looked shit compared to 3, which I don't understand because I love that game, but, like, people are hungry for Fallout, not so much Tomb Raider. And I think that's a bad design. I think it's a bad choice. I think it's a bad business move. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Then they announced Rare Replay, which is a 30 Rare games being released for Xbox One. I'm not too sure if they're up-resing them or if they're remaking them. I don't know what they're doing with them. It comes with 10,000 gamer score, they kept stressing. And I looked at the list of some of the games, and GoldenEye wasn't on it. And I'm sorry, folks, but I understand licensing's a nightmare, but Rare is GoldenEye. I don't care what anyone says. And I personally think Perfect Dark is a better game. I think Perfect Dark is one of the all-time greatest first-person shooters ever, because it was massively influential on me. And yes, I played Half-Life at the time. I thought Half-Life was janky as fuck, because I was a Perfect Dark fanboy. But this game has Jet Force Gemini, which is one of my all-time favourite N64 games, and it is a game I never beat. I got to the last boss on that game, and I could not beat it. The amount of time me and Aiden tried killing that boss, legendary. So all I'm thinking now is me and Mizar round 2, and he is going down. So I am really stoked to play this game, and I'm definitely going to be getting it for that alone. And then on top of that, Conker's Bad Fur Day, another one of my favourite Rare games, although incredibly difficult in some parts of that game, very brutal. Fantastic multiplayer that they completely gutted and ripped out for Xbox Live, thanks a bunch, Rare morons. And then Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, two fantastic games that I absolutely loved on the N64. I have them boxed behind me. And Battletoads and things, which I did like, but those games were so goddamn hard, you never got far. And a bunch of other stuff. Blast Corps! I haven't played Blast Corps for, wow, longer than some people listening to this have been alive. Crazy stuff. But that's very exciting, but just weird at the same time. Then there was Fable Legends. The more I see about this game, the more I'm losing interest. I think the first stuff they showed sounded interesting, and now they're just poking it and poking it and poking it. Not bothered. And then there was this. Wow. This was weird. So, if you were in the chat with me, I was like, what am I even looking at here? I don't get what's happening. And it took me a while to figure out what was exactly going on. HoloLens is Microsoft's Oculus? I don't even know, dude. I guess I wasn't paying that much attention. It's their holographic stuff. Their holotech. And it showed this person playing Minecraft of all games, you know, the game after my own heart. And it was showing how you can move the game from a screen onto a surface, and it used this table as an example. But the problem was, the thing that confused me is I was trained to use a camera, a professional level filming camera, when I did my digital effects digital film course at university. So there's this guy with a headset on looking at this table, and there's a guy with a camera filming this table, and he can see what he's seeing in the headset, and I just couldn't get my brain around it. I was like, how is this working? What am I seeing? And it turned out that they'd done something to the camera, of course, to enable it to see what was being projected via that headset. They'd fitted it with some similar technology. But at the time, I couldn't figure out how we were able to see what he was seeing, and it was just that moment of, like, I didn't know what was happening. And it looked crazy. It looked really weird. And everyone's in the chats, like, calling me a fucking old man and saying, like, it's the future, Chris, it's holograms, Chris. Like, yeah, but still, look at what is this kind of thing. It was so weird. And I just put in my notes, holograms are confusing, because it confused the balls off of me, but the potential for that stuff is limitless. Absolutely limitless. And you just know that it's going to be the porn industry that revolutionises that technology, because then they'll be in the quadrillionaire range, because it's always the carnal impulses that push it forward. but weird, nowhere near ready, ludicrously expensive. I hear it has to be 90 frames a second for it not to make you sick. And games can't even push 60 at the minute, so we're going to be playing Pong, and that's all. So that technology is nowhere near ready, but it looks interesting. And then they showed Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is a remastering definitive edition of Gears of War 1 for the Xbox One. I have the beta for this that I could play right now if I wanted to. I just kind of don't. That's not because I don't like Gears of War. Gears of War 1 is one of the best games ever made. Gears of War 1 was a watershed moment for me that made me buy a next-gen console. I was still playing God of Wars, Killzones, Prince of Persias, you name it, Onimushas, Splinter Cells on my PS2 when the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 were playing, you know, their first 2 years worth of games. I had no interest. There was nothing whatsoever making me want to buy those consoles. I saw no point. I had a GameCube, I had a PS2, I was laughing. And then I watched a competitive multiplayer tournament of Gears of War, and it blew me away. I've told this story before, so I'm not going to run long here. I'd never seen anything like it. I watched somebody chainsaw somebody, and I know we take things for granted, and once we see something that's so amazing, everything else kind of solemnizes and we don't realise just how amazing it is. But I think everybody, when you first saw that execution, it was life-changing. I'd never seen anything like it. And this is coming from somebody who watched all the horror movies, you know, all the action movies. Like, I was a child of desensitization of the 90s. But I loved it. And I bought an Xbox 360 and Gears of War, like a week later. And I had Gears of War and no other game for about 6 months. And all I did was play the campaign. Didn't even have live. Didn't want live. All I did was play the campaign. Loved it. Like, did absolutely everything I could with it. Knew every spawn, knew everything I could. Just, like, I did a snub-only insane run. And I got all the way up to the pump station in Act 4. No, sorry, end of Act 3. Where you first meet the Theron guards and they've all got torque bows. And I died, and the game respawned me with a Boltok, and it killed my run. I'll never forget that. And the rules were, you could use snub, you could use grenades, and you could use chainsaw. That's all you could use. And half of the fights were you sitting in cover with no snub bullets, waiting to chainsaw aggressive locusts. It was so terrifying. A lot of fun, though. And this new one, I don't know, guys. I think we need to leave these games where they are. I think we need to look forward, not back. And I'm getting so sick and tired of seeing games that I once loved and will always love being put in front of my face and paraded around in a new skirt. There's something crushing about it to me. And on one side, I'm like, this could be a good thing. I might finally be able to get seriously now and get that gamer picture that I've wanted for so long, that I think is the best gamer picture that they've ever done. And I'm sitting at like 6,000 kills on ranked on the original Gears of War, but nobody plays that game. And half the time when you play, people quit, so none of the kills count. So it really put me off getting it, even though I still think Gears 1 multiplayer is the best. Even though it had host, it had bullshit, it had instant active downs, it had all the stuff that made it great. Like, but you know they're going to change this. You know when they put it into this Ultimate Edition mode, things are going to be different. Like, I don't know, I think sometimes we need to let things be. Some things should be sacred, and they're just not. But it's 60 frames per second, which is really, really good. And I'm hoping, in my heart of hearts, that there's going to be an option for bots in the multiplayer. Because Gears is one of those games where it dies. I don't even know why. Like, Gears has one of the most balanced, most interesting multiplayer suites, but nobody plays it. Only people playing it are people who are like rank 1,000,000, who are really, really fucking good. Like, they're the only people still playing. And it sucks, because it's such a good game. But people would rather play Call of Duty. So I'm hoping that this has the bot implementation, just for when I go back in a couple of months after its release and there's 3,000 people online and I can't get a good connection, that I can just jump in and shoot some stuff and have some fun and remember why I loved it. But I'm not impressed, and I don't really want it, but I'm going to buy it because I love that game, and I'm curious. And then they did Gears of 4, which, nearly made me vomit when I saw the presentation. But Rod Ferguson did say that it's Gears of War 4. They were just doing it for the kind of douchiness of it. And I saw nothing impressive whatsoever. Nice lighting, nice weather effects, everything else was completely unexceptional. It was generic like crew cut blonde guy who kinda looked like Baird, only more attractive, with some woman walking through an incredibly dark area, chasing something you couldn't see. Like, you've done it a million times in Gears. That game needs to completely revolutionize its mechanics and do something drastically new, or no one's gonna care. I'm sorry, I know it sounds harsh. There'll still be the people that, you know, just lap it up and love it because it's more Gears, and for some reason people have this ability to just drink in sequels like it's Note, and I've just lost that. But this game has to blow people away. If it doesn't, it'll die. And I'll be happy to see it die, because they should be moving on to the Gears of War of Xbox One, not Gears of War on Xbox One. Like, this game, this series, started something great and launched the Xbox 360. Now it's time to give us the exact same equivalent for the Xbox One, and none of this bullshit dragging back our nostalgia and rubbing it in our faces. It's just stupid. But that was Microsoft's conference. I thought it was a strong conference. There was a great focus on games. There was a couple of surprises. I think they really came across strong and confident, and they didn't mention TV once, which was fantastic. No mention of Kinect, fantastic. They haven't mentioned much about what they're doing to the Xbox One Dash, because apparently there's massive changes coming, which is a great news because it's a piece of shit and massive changes are needed. That is a console that every time I turn it on, it makes me angry. So I can't wait for them to change some of that bullshit. Like the day of the press conferences, I couldn't even load up games that I'd downloaded, digital games, because for some reason they're online dependent. You can't play them unless you're online, even though you've downloaded them to your machine. You have to be online because of some holdback to the always-on bullshit that they were originally pushing. So when the online's all messed up because a million people are watching E3 conferences through the damn TVs on their Xbox Ones, I couldn't even play Rayman. Like... And I bet there were a ton of other people that couldn't as well. And lo and behold, when I went on GameFAQs, everybody's like, oh, Xbox Live is dead right now. Nobody could get access to that Gears beta to download it. Nobody could get access to Marketplace. The entire thing was dying. Like, it needs some serious work. It needs a massive overhaul. And the fact that they're saying and they're looking into changing it is great news because it's well needed. But that was my thoughts, folks. What was yours? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did they win? Did they lose? Do you care? But as always... You take care now.